Hi, everyone, and welcome to today's webinar. We're calling it Creating Exceptional Self-Service Experiences with Oracle Commerce Cloud. And whether you're watching this live or on demand, I think this is a really timely conversation that we're having today. Just a little housekeeping before we start. You can submit questions in the chat or the question box, and time permitting, we'll respond or we'll just follow up with you directly and get your questions answered. And if you have to drop off for any reason, don't worry about it. There'll be a recording available, and you'll receive an email with that video recording in a few days. So with that, I'll do some introductions. I'm Sarah Falcon, VP of Marketing at Object Edge, and Adam Wilmoth, who will be presenting, is on the line as well. Can you skip to the next slide so you can see our faces?
Yes.
There we are. Yeah, so Adam Wilmoth is head of sales at B2B sales at Object Edge. He has a background in helping organizations leverage state-of-the-art technology, services, and processes to adapt the right capabilities to operate in a digital-first world, adopt the right capabilities. So very versed in this space, a lot of experience in the Oracle sphere and also with B2B and self-service. He brings over 20 years international experience running and managing technology and digital agency services. So with a focus on Oracle-driven commerce and digital marketing technologies for B2B. So you're in good hands. And with that, I'll hand it off to Adam.
Well, thank you very much, Sarah. Just going to jump on in. Welcome, everyone. Thank you for joining today. So the business-to-business market has become more competitive in recent years, and corporate buyers seek to sort of increase their operational efficiency and really optimize their procurement process. So, the B2B market's meant to be upwards of about 7 trillion now in 2020, with about $1 trillion of that in the United States. So it's growing, and after probably a slow start, maybe 5-6 years ago, finally seeing the market embracing some of the benefits of, I would call it sort of the advanced e-commerce and self-service platforms like Oracle Commerce provides. I think for us, if we're really looking at the world of how to engage with your buyer, we've really got two main areas. I mean, self-service content, digital assets, and applications are really an organization's opportunity to make a massive impact, on your customer base and more prospects, build that loyalty and keep them longer than your competitors have ever dreamed of if you do it right and you invest and pushing that information at the right time to the right buyer. We know that most of the research in retail and B2B really goes on before even someone even picks up the phone. So a customer will gladly let you know when they want to talk to one of you, but all the other times, it really should be easy as possible for them to do what they want, when they want, with the goods and services that you provide. And I think this type of interaction is ultimately the win-win, which should be exposed on today's newer sites. So today we're going to speak about the transactional component of self-service. If we look at the slide we're on right now, these are a lot of the B2B and B2C activities that go on, before a buyer really makes that decision. So, if we're looking at the content requirements for self-service, be it on the B2B side or B2C, it really begins with that research, right? We know the research going on with any phone calls, but if we don't push that up at the right time or don't give them enough information, they're going to go another site, and then you've lost them. So this slide's really meant to just share the different tools from a B2B and B2C perspective that have been proven highly successful at sort of gaining that trust and engage and convert those first two steps in onboarding your new customers in your journey. I think if I look at some of my customers over the years, what I have found is that it's a lot of them at the beginning have had a lot of difficulties trying to get through that first hurdle with, probably 6 to 10 decision makers armed with 4 or 5 pieces of different information about the products they want to buy from a new manufacturer. And then they have to come back and huddle and try to deconflict with that group, right? So it makes the buying process and automation of that really difficult. So trying to lay that out in a foundation is really important, making it easy and eliminating some of the complexity. And especially looking at some of the new 2020 reports that are coming out of Gartner's and Forrester's of the world still say that it's really complicated for people to buy. And I always use their example of registration. Registration in B2B still to this day is really cumbersome, time consuming, and can, in certain instances, even for the best organizations out there, take 2 to 3 weeks to get set up. And then and I get, kind of pushback of, oh, well, I don't want to expose my pricing, and I need to run a DMB or a LexisNexis and get, the volume established to understand what kind of price discounts I need to provide. And no, I'm not going to show price visibility, even if it's list price, because I think it's just too sensitive. And then I go over to Amazon Business, and then in 1 hour I'm approved, and I'm seeing the same SKUs that I've just been told are price sensitive with all of the price buying bulk exposure I need. So, one can do it. It's just a matter of hiding that complexity from your buyers. And yes, all of that back-end work needs to go on, but it doesn't mean that the sign-up process should be that complex. I think if we look at, let's go to the next one here. If we look at right now, e-commerce and self-service tools, they're on a way to move forward in the world, but really the customers want a frictionless buying experience. Finding the right way to use those tools in a B2C or in a B2B company really comes from examining all of your internal processes within the company and the prospects and customers go through in their buyer's journey with you, and applying the sales team and right tools to those business process to offer really, an e-commerce experience that's efficient, customer directed, and it will delight the customers and make them want to do business with you. But if we look at the sales organizations today, and if we look at the 2 different vectors here with the complexity of a manufacturer, if somebody's creating, heart machines or transplant machines, or, on the left side, if those SKUs are, really a ton of, SKU bundles that are really complex. We have to look at sort of what's going to change in that sales persona over the next 3 to 5 years, because the serve me and the show me guys, they're really going away. Probably, according to Gartner, about 30 to 40% of those sales reps are going. And that friction on organizations is being seen today, mainly because self-service is enhancing and their roles are diminishing, and we're finding ways now to retool them. But the guide me and the sort of consult with me personas, they're not going to be lost as much. That's really your magic sauce. And I don't see those being anywhere like maybe as high as like 10 or 15% for the guide me. That's going to be a reduction, and maybe 5 to 15 on the consult with me, because you need individuals inside your organization that understand how all of your complex products work. I often get pushback on the sales commissions launching a digital channel, and adoption. Let's say, some of the more established organizations with pushbacks such as, I can never get my sales team to give up their relationships, their customers, and to pass their orders directly to the online channel, and really removing themselves from the ordering process. That's a very difficult move to make within an organization, especially for those wanting to sort of go down this road for the first time, or take an immature e-commerce platform and really take it to the next level. And it's a common self-service roadblock that's real for manufacturers. And successful companies have done it by really incentivizing their sales reps with equal, if not even more commission to shift to the online channel. Companies like Cisco, they used to pay like 1.3x just to shift over their, have a channel shift and move all of their orders into the digital world. And I still hear comments such as, well, you know, my B2B channel is a cost center and not really a revenue channel. Well, I'm vehemently saying that that is not the case. And those companies that still think that way will be overtaken within the next 3 to 5 years by those competitors who've laid the foundation out for a channel shift and growth that's required to compete today in today's landscape. So now, why don't we go over into some of the transactional components of the e-commerce journey as it is. And I think, you know, e-commerce self-service tools are a way to move forward in a world really where the customer wants that frictionless buying experience and finding, you know, the right way to use those tools. Excuse me. So many manufacturers and distributors sometimes can be slow to deploy commerce because the businesses have been built around those relationships and they fear that those relationships will be threatened with the addition of commerce. However, you know, my opinion is that these relationships can get even stronger with e-commerce because you can be there really when the customer needs you and not when they assume you do, right? So remember, self-service isn't an online centric, it's just digital first. Salespeople are not a separate offline channel with e-commerce. They're empowered. They just need the tools and an equally compelling commerce experience in order to deliver those experiences. I think if we look at the buyer persona in B2B, I think 90% of my projects that I've seen in my career, they've pretty much been consistent. And what I mean by that, they're really sort of built up of 4 groups. I think the first group we see is sort of the super admin group, right? That's the individual that onboards all of the users onto the buyer's platform, make sure that all of the credit limits for purchasing have been set, and maybe even the dollar quantities of what the specific buyers can do. I think then we look at sort of the accountant. The accountant usually comes to your site to pay bills, manage invoices, maybe does some credit and rebills, etc. Then you have the actual sales rep themselves, where their role is really sort of to create quotes and send them to, you know, his or her customers, etc. And then the buyer is really just there to replenish stock and expand those new products. So as we look at that, we have to sort of consolidate information on the site that's really relevant to each of those profiles and capture the tasks and activities that are performed by buyers, you know. And the profiles need to allow us to enable your buyers by delivering that content experience catered to their needs, right? But buyer profiles can also continue to be optimized. It's not something that needs to be static. And I think as you grow and as you become more proficient with how they want to interact with your brand, then you know you can advance on those. You can look at ways to create more engagement with them and change on demand with the A/B split testing tools that are inside of Oracle Commerce to see really what drives that engagement and create the stickiness so that the buyers really return to you. And I got one really interesting example of understanding the personas. You know, I typically ask my clients when we're doing implementations, I'm like, do you understand your buyers? Like, yeah, we understand them. And I say, can I talk to them? Can we go? Yeah, so we've got a good relationship with, you know, distributor X. Go and talk to those guys. And I say, I want to talk to like an admin clerk at the very bottom of the food chain that really just plugs in orders every day. And one of the things that I found that was very interesting was that this particular customer thought they knew their buyer really well and then translated that experience online. But they were still spending, you know, over 2,000 hours a year trying to, you know, put orders in. And I said, that just doesn't sound right to me. And it ended up being the fact that the distributor didn't have the same SKU numbers as the manufacturer, and they constantly had to look it up. And a simple thing like an item cross-reference module inside of OCC was able to sort of reduce 2,000 hours out of their ordering life cycle because they didn't need to look up the manufacturer's SKU number. So there's all sorts of ways of translating your buyer's day-to-day activities into Oracle Commerce Cloud and allowing, you know, for sort of a seamless way to cut corners of time. I always talk about the 40 under 40, which is, you know, 40% of the buyers today are under 40, and they expect a whole different interaction with your brand than some of the more established buyers that have, you know, 20 years experience. And that's also rapidly changing. It's probably going to be 50 under 35 within the next 2 or 3 years, which means we have to create that. So what you see on the screen now is some of the best practices of self-service features that Oracle Commerce Cloud natively supports. And I'm just going to go into a couple of them for us. So if we look as an example at the first one, at creating quotes, a quick order form, I think this is really important because this is where time's saved, and there's numerous ways of doing it. You can upload it through an Excel spreadsheet. You can have multiple versions of a product with different SKUs, obviously, but different colors and sizes. But you can order them from the same page, obviously different to retail. One second. I think if we look at the configure product side of it too, you know, if you've got ones that need configuration with different variations, if you're a furniture company and you need metal feet on there, or you need, you know, a different leather cover, it's important to be able to prevent that customer service call by allowing that to be configured in the system so that ultimately you can achieve the best result of having a successful order. I think if we look at bulk orders, it's the same thing. I think bulk orders come in a variety of ways. Sometimes you can use the My List functionality, sometimes you can do the upload as well, but clearly ways to sort of automate that. On the My List side, when you've got really complex, let's say Hilton Hotels is doing an expansion to the West Wing, and you've got, you know, a room configuration that has, you know, 20 to 300 different SKUs in there for all sorts of things. And then it's easier just to like upload that so that you don't have to remember the configuration, and you could extrapolate that into many different industry verticals as well. I think when it comes to workflow and approval, with Oracle Commerce Cloud, there's a variety of ways to do that. But the bottom line is, and by the way, all of these screen prints I'm showing to you are Oracle Commerce Cloud and native functionality without any extension to its capabilities. So it's just native functionality. And most of these, I think 80% of the screen prints I'm showing is inside of Object Edge's reference store, which is available. So if we're looking at really the order routing associated to, you know, quotes, I think we're looking at, you know, activities such as sales reps wanting to put together something to send to a prospect, as well as buyers wanting to receive maybe a special pricing because it goes above and beyond their normal buying purchase history, so that they hope, you know, obviously that they could maybe get better pricing on that, which obviously is important. Let's look at contract pricing. Sorry, my mouse is going a little crazy here. I think when contract pricing, I think, is especially important when you're talking about organizations that have multiple contracts with you, and what contract they're going to be applying to a specific order. You know, back with the Hilton Hotel example I was giving, they could have different contract pricing on the East Coast than they have on the West Coast, and needing to understand what buyer is actually buying that. In this instance, you know, making sure that you have that visibility, not only at the contract level, but sometimes pricing required even at the job level. That is very specific. If it's you know, new expansion on a hospital that costs multiple millions of dollars, I am sure that organizations would like to have special pricing for that expensive build out. It's not like they're buying a sink and a door. It's actually a whole new wing. So I think that's really important that it's brought into the system and capable of translating into that. I think let's talk about order messaging. I think order messaging plays a role all over the website, really, and across multiple personas, because you've got the individuals wanting to see, logging in where those orders are. You've also got customer service needing to reflect that, and you've also got the client touch side of it, where informing the individual of that order, etc. We all know how that works, and I think this type of visibility inside of Oracle Commerce Cloud is really important. Whether you put it at the portal landing page inside of on the home page of your login to show your customers specifically where their orders are, or you have a designated area, I think it really doesn't matter, and it depends on your buyers, but ultimately extremely important so that you can drill down into that order and see when it's going to be available, especially if split shipments, etc. happening. I think on invoice management, I think what we're seeing in the industry now is that e-commerce engines are becoming increasingly familiar with handling invoices. I think obviously with Oracle Commerce Cloud API first architecture, it's really easy to consume that data and make it available to your constituents. And I think back to the buyer persona groups that we were talking about earlier relates to, the financial individual paying on the site. It's really important. And I've seen a bunch of options for organizations taking their invoices and pushing them online. Some organizations use third parties. The bill pay third parties that are out there, they tend to take quite a chunk out of your revenue. Usually it's like a percentage of the transaction, as well as collection fees if there are companies that aren't paying. And then there's organizations that tend to build it out themselves. I have to say that, 5 years ago, it wasn't as easy to build out ourselves, but with Oracle Commerce today, building out and consuming your invoices into OCC and displaying them for users to review, reorder against, return, or even pay against with whatever payment methods that you've defined in Oracle Commerce Cloud has become increasingly easier to do. So I am seeing a shift now going away from these bill pay companies to actually putting this type of functionality into the applications themselves. I think on the reporting side, I think there's a fine line between web metrics and then sort of the e-commerce platform metrics. I think Oracle Commerce Cloud does a great job of differentiating that and putting that available. But you can extend this however you deem fit. If you get really creative, sometimes you need a BI tool to sort of supplement it. But in general, with a combination of, if it's Google Analytics or whatever you're using in combination with Oracle's product, you pretty much have everything covered that you need from a reporting perspective that can be pushed out to a variety of users on the site as well, both on the admin side as well as on the consumer side. So this one has been a very interesting activity for us here at Object Edge, for all of the wrong reasons, I have to say, but with Curbside Pickup being sort of the new norm in today's world, we wanted to really come up with a way for self-service to take on some of the nuances that we have to deal with for B2B companies as well as retailers, just not wanting anyone in the store anymore, at least not for the foreseeable future. And if that is the case, then not that many allowed in at any given time. So the importance of Curbside Pickup integrating into OCC becomes really important. And we launched this last week. and actually have already signed up a lot of customers on it, understandably, because what this application is doing for them is really just managing the last mile. So imagine a world where you know, a B2B company has a pickup in store. However, we don't want anyone in the store, and we would like to meet the customer outside in the parking lot and bring it to the boot of the car and confirm the transaction that way. So in our application, we just allow the ability to upload those orders into the Curbside app and manage them, and then a store associate basically comes in and says, oh, okay, here's pending pickup. I just got a text from Maud Summers. I'm just going to go over, and she's told me she's ready, and I'm going to go and put her products in the back of the trunk, and then once complete, I move that order into a delivered status, whereby the customer has the opportunity to also say, hey, I'm in stall number 17 on the parking lot where the big oak tree is. So you can really have that two-way communication, because all real estate and parking options are different, as we all know. So this is just a way for us to adapt to the times that we have today and provide that self-service and customer service really combined together in one, to keep people safe, as well as obviously pick up the products that they want without going into the store. I think with Amazon's way of looking at warranty and returns, you know, if you can't do a simple warranty in a couple of minutes, buyers over the months of dealing with you are just going to find some, you know, returns are going to happen. We all know that. And it's a matter of doing it really super easy for you, and allowing them to print off their delivery RMA authorization forms and get it shipped back to you as quickly as possible. And investing time in that, often in e-commerce deployments, it's really done last. And I don't know why, because that's one of the sticking points that I get from buyers when they say, you know what, if I have a really horrendous RMA process, then I just go somewhere else. So I think you really impact churn, you impact lifetime value of your customers, as well as the overall sort of customer satisfaction of automating that. And of course, you know, as a astute businessman, one needs to apply the right rules and not sort of accepting everything, because we do know there's a little bit of fraud involved in all of that. But in general, you know, obviously trying to make that as easy as possible. So I think one of the really cool self-service features, I actually can't show any screen prints because of IP restrictions on this particular example, but you know, for companies like Motorola, or companies like I'll use a Beachbody example. They had trainers. Those trainers would spend hours building quotes for their customers. And it's kind of a B2B to C environment that I'm talking about. So they would, you know, get on the phone and say, you know, you need to take these shakes in the morning. I think we should do, you know, 2 hours of cardio, and you need this CD to do the cardio. And they would really put together this sort of training plan. But instead of telling the customer what to buy, because the customer didn't know what to buy and was being advised on what to buy, we built some functionality that we called shared cart. And that shared cart is the ability for a sales rep to go into Oracle to create all of the cart components for whatever it is you're actually selling, and then to email that cart to the customer. The customer may not even have an account with you, because it's an anonymous cart right now. And then as soon as it goes to the customer's email, you could actually allow that person to sign on and continue with the products that were put in there, alleviating a lot of the time that was involved in having to repick all of that and put it into your cart and purchase it, etc. So at the end, I think on the portal summary, This is really talking about sort of the landing page that I showed earlier of what I see, typically in mature e-commerce landing pages. It's usually sort of persona driven, where obviously it has different content based on who's logging in, back to those 4 different profiles I spoke of earlier. And then really just changing the look and feel based on how we're going to direct the buyer through that journey, and whether it's the sales rep trying to get a quote, or whether it's the financial payee trying to pay the invoices, or really the buyer just replenishing stock. So I think in any journey of self-service on Oracle Commerce Cloud, taking all of those features into account would be beneficial. And I hope that this has shed a little light on some of the best practices that we're seeing out in the market now, and obviously happy to take any questions if there are, or talk about some more use cases.
Great. Thank you, Adam. Really a lot to think of, so really great to see it all. We haven't had any questions yet. If we can leave it open a couple minutes if anyone has any they want to add in quickly. We'll be happy to take them. You also have the email. You'll be receiving this as a video in your inbox over the next couple days, so you can reply to that email and reach out to us directly.
All right, guys. Well, thank you very much. I really appreciate it. We got through this pretty quickly. It's only 30 minutes. So I think get back to the rest of your days. Respect everyone's time today. Stay safe. Have a wonderful afternoon, and hope to hear from you soon. Thank you very much, guys. Take care.